All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa la kulli shay'in qadir. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Assalamu alaikum, guys, and welcome we have the weekly Halaqa here at TMC, 8080 North 56th Street, Tampa, Florida. If you guys would love to come. I am your brother Shahid. I'm filling in for Imam Inshira today, as he and many people, brothers and sisters from here in Tampa, have taken the venture to go to Umrah during the spring break. So he asked me to fill in. And so we ask that Allah accepts everybody's Umrah that's on their way and that he makes their trip beneficial. So we pray that this is a success, that their trip is a success. So today what I'm going to be talking on is the agenda, right, to change our conditions, right? Agenda to change our tradition or our condition. And hold on, let me let some people in. So before I begin, I want to say that this actually comes from a conference that I attended several years ago here in Tampa, actually, with Sheikh Hamza Yusuf and Imam Zaid. So as I was sitting and I asked Imam Inshira, I was like, what do you want me to speak about? And he said, it's up to you. So as I was sitting thinking about what I was going to talk about this weekend, I was going through my books and I came across this little flyer, or this handout that they gave us at this conference. And I said, you know what? I think this is a perfect topic to speak about, right? What is our agenda? And as Muslims, right, as men, as women, as children, you know, we have to have an agenda. Me being a teacher, what I would call an agenda is a curriculum. What is the curriculum that we're going to use to change our current state? What is the agenda, the curriculum that we're going to use to change our condition? And if we attempt to change or educate ourselves without a curriculum, we'll find ourselves lost. One of the points that, you know, as I talk to different Muslims and I learn about people's education, one of the issues that we have is that if you look at if you go to their house and you look at their books, their library, which of course every Muslim should have a library, right? You'll see that there's no rhyme or reason, right? There is no curriculum to their learning. And since there's no curriculum to their learning, they take some from this, they take some from that, they patch, you know, and they try to fill in the holes. And usually if there's no curriculum or no agenda for your education, you're probably going to have more holes in your education than you believe that than what you know. So that's similar to if you go to school, if you were in, you know, elementary school or middle school and you picked up a high school level math book or a high school level science book, you would actually you would know less about that book than what you would know, even if you read and got older, and if nobody actually taught you what was in that text, right? There would be more that you didn't know about that text than what you did, right? But if you bring a teacher into your education, the teacher is going to have a curriculum and they're going to systematically go through that book. And as they spend the years going through that book, they're going to know what is more important for you to learn and what is of least significance. Not saying that it's not significant, but of the least significance. And so they'll teach you what is most important first, and then they'll teach you what is less important later. So I wanted to touch on that, right? What are the conditions, the agenda to change our conditions? And so I have to give credit to this book that this is not my system that I've implemented, but our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that wisdom is the lost beast of the believer. Where he finds that wisdom, that knowledge, he utilizes it, he takes it and he utilizes it. Okay. So wherever that knowledge comes from, we, the Muslim, we benefit from that knowledge. We use it to benefit ourselves. Okay. So there's 4 steps that is mentioned in this book. And the first step is form a serious study group to learn the 5 pillars properly and thoroughly. Okay. So we know that our Islam, right? Well, in the Jibril hadith, right? The Prophet Muhammad SAW was asked by Jibril to tell me about Islam. What is Islam? And the Prophet mentioned the 5 pillars of Islam, right? The first and foremost, the Shahada, to believe, right, in the oneness of Allah, to believe that there is no God but Allah. The prayer, the fasting, which is soon to be upon us, the Hajj, okay? And then, I'm sorry, the fasting, the charity, zakat, and then the Hajj for those that are able to, okay? These are our pillars of Islam. And so what we have to understand in today's world, right, what we have to understand in today's world is that if you don't know your Islam, your 5 pillars of Islam, if you have not been taught these or actively gone out in search of this knowledge, right, your Islam is deficient, okay? And this is very important because it's more than just reading a book. Islam is not, the knowledge of Islam, of this religion, is not transferred from book to person. Knowledge of this religion is transferred knee to knee, from a teacher to a student. Okay, knowledge. Let's speak about the Quran. Was sent down, right? To, was it? Forgetting the actual name, but the Kaaba of the lowest heaven, right? And this is the traditional understanding. And then over the 23-year period, that Quran was brought down to the heart of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. And then of this religion was taught knee to knee of the angel Jibril to the Prophet Muhammad SAW. And then taught from the Prophet Muhammad SAW knee to knee to his Sahaba. And then from his Sahaba, Assalamu alaikum, guys. And then from the Sahaba to the Tabi'een, knee to knee, and then to the Tabi'een, right? And then to the later generations of the Salaf, and then sent down knee to knee to the Khalif, those that came after the Salaf, which we are a part of those people. So we can pick up books and we can learn, right? But true knowledge, true understanding is taught knee to knee. Okay. And so from there, we must, what is that saying? That we must take a teacher, right? We must take a teacher. We must find a teacher. And that poses a whole nother question. How do we know who the rightly guided teachers are? Right? By me, growing up, I grew up, my father converted to Orthodox Islam, Sunni Islam from the Nation of Islam. So there was a point in his life where he believed that he was getting the true understanding of Islam. Later to find out that that's not the case, and then to make a transition in his life, right? So that's a point that we have to discuss, is how do we know what we are being taught is true Islam as taught to the Prophet Muhammad SAW and given to the companions and given to the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een? How do we know that, right? How do we know what this is, right? That this is the correct understanding of Islam. Okay. So with that, we have, as it says, the first step is to form a serious study group and touching on the 5 pillars of Islam. How do I pray? Not only the issues of how do I pray, how do I, what invalidates my prayer? So,
do any of you have owned this HANA Civic at PS247, right? The black one? No, it's black right in front of the gate.
I have in front of the gate.
Yeah.
I have one right in front of the door.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
In front of the door, yeah. Was your handle like the?
Yeah, it's been like that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
sure,
fine.
yeah?
Alhamdulillah, that's fine. Don't worry
I was
about
like,
that.
the handle's not there.
Yeah, no. No, don't worry about that. That's good. That's me. That's me. Alhamdulillah. All right. Where was I at? So creating a study group, knowing how to pray. Okay. Knowing what is obligatory for your prayer, right? There are actions that are obligatory for your prayer. There's actions that are sunnah for your prayer, right? And then there's actions that are recommended for your prayer. Understanding all of the different components of the prayer, knowing what invalidates your prayer, okay? So that you can stay away from that. So we have to understand this, right? That information has been transmitted to us. It's been codified, put in books. It's been like I said, codified, put in books. There's been commentaries on these books, right? We are a part of a rich tradition of knowledge and education. So the first step for us to change our condition is to understand the importance of knowledge in our religion. We're coming up on the month of Ramadan. Okay. Knowing the 5 pillars. When does Ramadan begin? When does Ramadan end? What invalidates our fast? What is a proper fast? How do I perfect my fast? Okay. These are the conditions that we must learn, right? The principles of our religion that we must learn to change our conditions. Okay. What is, if we're talking about giving zakat, knowing that there is a difference between sadaqah and zakat. What are the conditions of zakat? Is the money that I give, is it sufficient or isn't it sufficient? Who should pay zakat? Who doesn't have to pay zakat? Right? Well, I shouldn't even say that, because we know that even an unborn child, the father must pay zakat for that unborn child, right? Everyone is responsible for the zakat. Where does the zakat go to? Who gets the first claim of the zakat? These are parts of our religion that we must learn. So the curriculum to change our agenda is to create or to join a serious study group to learn our 5 pillars properly. Okay? What are the conditions of Hajj? What invalidates our Hajj? Right? How do we perform the different tasks during Hajj? Okay? So of the, this part is very, very, very important, of the first thing that we must do to change our condition. Okay. So before I just want to open it up, I don't want it me just talking. Is there any, I have people online here. You guys have any questions or about what I said or any statements?
Well, I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay. About meeting the teacher.
Mhm. Yes.
So what about those individuals, especially the women who may not have access to someone who is not, or I mean, even married, but they're not in the business.
Mhm.
What to do in both situations?
Okay. Well, we'll touch on today, and then we'll touch on what happened in the past. Okay. Today, Allah has immensely blessed us with this thing called YouTube. Okay. With this thing called YouTube. My teacher said this. This is something that my teacher said. I'm not saying it for anybody else to take it, but this is what my teacher said, is that YouTube is sufficient, because people ask the same question. What if we don't have a viable teacher around us, right? YouTube, but he said that you have to take it as if you were in a class. Okay. So while I'm listening about whatever subject this may be, right, or whatever series that this may be, this is my class time, and I'm going to sit with the teacher. The teacher has, usually there's a book that you're going to be reading from. You have to go out and spend some of your money. Assalamu alaikum. You got to spend some of your money, get this textbook, okay, and systematically go through the book with the teacher. he said that when his teacher in the 80s, right, they would video record the lesson with his teacher, and then the students would take that video recording and they would listen to that video recording over and over and over and over and over again until Allah gave them the opening of knowledge into the material. Okay, so in that case, that's what we must do. Okay, now in the past, right, and if we're talking about the differences of genders, right, we have stories of men that have traveled hundreds of miles to acquire knowledge. For us today, acquiring knowledge is easy, right? We have notable sheikhs and scholars that give lectures, ulama that give lectures on YouTube. We don't have to travel anywhere now. It's best to sit with them knee to knee, right? That's because the largest part of an education, right, is actually smelling the fragrance of learned people, right? That's the best part of knowledge. But if you don't have that for whatever reason, right, we have videos that we can listen to, recordings that we can listen to, okay? But in the past world, people would, if they wanted to acquire this knowledge, they would have to go to where that learned man or woman was and acquire this knowledge. Today, we're blessed, okay? We have, like I said, YouTube, but it's a condition of you have to take the seriousness. Like this is saying a serious study group, okay? So you have to take it seriously. I'm in class right now, okay? And so you're letting know, of course, bring your whole family around. This is the class. This is what we're going to listen to, okay? And we have, like, I'll say for my sheikh, I know I studied Maliki Fiqh, the teacher the lesson that I listened to, he's just an email away. I also have students of that teacher that they, because me starting out at a novice level, that is more advanced, that if I have a question, I can ask that person. I can just go to Instagram or Facebook and send a message, and if they don't know, they're going to go to who that person that might be a step above them that I may not have access to, right? And they're going to ask that question, right? Because we know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, well, it's actually Allah tells us in the English translation. I wish I knew it in Arabic, but I don't. But to ask those, if you don't know, ask those who know. And this is a very important part of seeking knowledge. Okay. If you don't know, ask someone who knows, because if you just make a ruling on your own, right? From what the ulama and the scholars would say is that you're wrong, even if your ruling is correct. Even if your guess was correct, you're still wrong for doing that. And that's how we stay away from falling down into the path of the Christians and the Jews of just taking our book and making our own ruling off of that book, okay, off of our interpretation or our understanding, right? So if we don't know, we ask those who know. If they don't know, they ask those that know, so on and so forth until the answer comes, okay? And we know, I think it was Imam Malik says, but I'm forgetting exactly who said it. Half of knowledge is saying, I don't know, right? And once you start, you start traveling the path of knowledge, right? Imam Ghazali talked about the ignorant fool, right? The ignorant fool. And of course today, and I pray that I don't become one of those people, we are surrounded by ignorant fools, which are people that are fools and they don't even know that they're fools, right? And they're teaching people without authority, without ijazah, without, and coming up with different rulings, right? So it's like, for me, what I teach is what's been taught to me, and I try my best, and I pray that Allah forgives me if I ever get out of my lane, right? What I teach is what's been taught to me, and I stay right there, I stay right there. So the step one of the condition or the agenda, I'm sorry, yes.
She actually asked the same exact question I was going to ask, but with your response, you know, especially like you said, for women, once you want to go past that very basic knowledge, like when I first started out, I'm the only person that's Muslim in my family still to this day.
Mhm.
I started out watching YouTube videos, how to pray, you know, the basics of stuff. But I feel like at that level, you're getting the basics, but I didn't learn that, you know, there's different stuff to do if you make a mistake in your salah. How do you fix that? Or the percentage of zakat, or how do you know if your person has to pay it or not? Those detailed things. This is my 7th year actually as a Muslim. It's been a very gradual process of learning all of those things kind of on my own.
Mhm.
And I think too, the danger with the YouTube is that, you know, alhamdulillah, the person who brought me into Islam was a Sunni Muslim, but you don't know who these teachers are, their education background. You don't know how to give them credentials.
That's very,
Who you see on anybody.
that's very important. That's very important. And you know, that when I say like I stay in my lane, right? That's a potential points of disagreement that people may have of who do you properly follow. You are right. There is a lot of people that on YouTube should not be followed. I agree with that 100%. Right. And so, but with that, what you have to do is begin to ask the questions, begin to, you know, is this person viable? Is this person attached to this isnad, right? It's very important. And I'll say this because the majority of people here are African American. So it's like for us as African Americans, we came into the middle of a theological war and we didn't know it, right? And so with that, people are saying, well, don't listen to this person, listen to this person, don't listen to that person, you know, and it can become very confusing, right? It can become very confusing. So what I would say to that is that then to actually venture out and ask people. Again, if you don't know, ask those that know, right? And it's like, okay, I want to listen to this person. Well, let me do some research. Who is this person, right? What are their credentials? Who have they studied under? Is this a viable, you know, school? Is this person connected to the isnad, right? So that's what our Prophet Islam told us, that the strength of Islam is connected to the isnad, right? If this person is in the isnad or not, the chain of narration, right? So we know Islam from, you know, the knowledge coming from Allah to Jibril to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu to the Sahaba to the Tabi'in, right? The next generation, depending on the ruling that you have, right, of the Salaf, then the Khalaf is this chain, because that chain, that information is available to us. It is available. This chain that such and such person learned from such and such person, who learned from such and such person, who learned from such and such person, who learned from such and such person, that learned from the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu that learned from Jibril, right? That information is available to us, right? But for our community, right, I'll say that we've been cut off from that. That's why we go to the bookstore and we buy whatever looks good for us, right? And we don't have a curriculum.
Well, for me, I've gotten a lot just coming to these types of classes, especially he gave me a lot of the books and everything.
Yeah.
Something and all of those things. But my question was, would it be, if I wanted to gain a more in-depth knowledge and have a teacher, would it be appropriate for me to ask? Because I was thinking about asking actually, like even if it were to be me, him, his wife, his family, not just me, but on a more intimate setting than this, but one where I can, you know, not have the limitation of a YouTube video where I can't ask a question, I can't clarify, you know, something that I may not have understood. Would that be appropriate if so long as it wasn't me and him by ourselves?
Yes, there's no hijab between you and attaining the knowledge to please Allah, right? That's one of the things that we have to understand. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the things of oppression that has occurred towards women, right? There is no hijab between you and acquiring the knowledge. If your husband or whoever is saying that if there's a lesson and they say, oh, you can't go, and there's no dangers in the street, that husband is incorrect from preventing you from acquiring the knowledge to please Allah. This is when we're talking about the 5 prayers or the 5 pillars of Islam. This is you learning sacred knowledge, and no one can keep you from that. So yes, it is appropriate for you to go and acquire that knowledge. Okay. Now, if there's danger in the streets, right, and where you could be hurt or maimed or injured, but it doesn't make any sense that you can go to the grocery store in those conditions, but you can't go and acquire this knowledge. So no, this is the whole point, is to set up serious study groups. It's not serious study groups for the men only. Okay. It's serious study groups for the Muslims. Okay. And I'll say that this is one of the issues for not all cultures are the same in their application. They should be in acquiring knowledge, right? But as far as if the men are out here getting the knowledge and the women are at home not getting the knowledge, then in my opinion, to speak frankly, that's hustling backwards, because who's going to teach your children? Right? If the women are the first teachers of the children, and if their education is insufficient because your ideology was that they should stay at home and not go out and acquire this knowledge, and they're the first teachers of the children, who's going to teach the generations of Muslims to go forward, right? Doesn't make any sense. And if we look at it, if not the most powerful scholar, right, of this ummah, not of that age, but of this ummah, was our mother Aisha. May Allah be pleased with her. Right? So I don't, this is some, you get me political up here, but this is some foolishness that has come, that we've accepted, that has no place in this religion. Right? That women can't go and fight and get this deen that is pleasing to Allah. Right? So I don't want to, let me come down a little bit off of that, but that's yeah. So whatever, if that knowledge is available to you, go get it. Go get it. All right. And no one can stop you from getting that knowledge. Right. If there's no danger in the street, now traveling long distances, without a mahram, that's a different, issue, but if it's in your town and there's ability to get the knowledge, no one can keep you from getting, just like a husband can't tell his wife she can't go to the masjid. He doesn't have the right to do that. Okay. So the first curriculum to change our agenda is to set up a serious study group. Okay. To set up a serious study group. The second, create a dawah program designed to produce results. Right. This is very important. Create a dawah. So there's 3 steps that every Muslim must do. Right. First, you must learn. Create the dawah group. Create the study group. You must learn. Once you learn, right, as my teacher said, I remember I was like 12 years old, once you have been moved out of the age of darkness into the light, once you've learned, now you are legally responsible to practice what you learn. Okay? Allah veiled that information for you for whatever reason that Allah chose to veil that information for you. Once he has presented that information for you that you know, now you must implement. So you learn, you implement, and after you implement, you spread the word, right? You spread the word. You set up a dawah program, right, that produces results, right? You go out, you talk to people. You're saving them from the fire. We have to understand that, right? I was talking to a close friend today, right? And dealing with family issues, and kind of shy. And it says, okay, no, you look at people not in the state that they're negative, and it's something that we have to fight against, right? We don't say, oh, that person is a kuffar. I'm not talking to them, right? That is not the mentality that spread this religion. That is not the mentality that had this religion spread from the farthest reaches of West Africa all the way into China within 100 years. That's not the mentality. Dawah is seeing people and having seeing it as a mercy to them that I'm going to move you from the worship of flesh and stone to the worship of the one true God, right? I have to have sensitivity to you that you right now are worshiping flesh and stone, and that's not going to benefit you in the next life. So I have to come to you and help you, right? And there's going to be difficulty. I was listening to a lecture just before when I was driving here, and it was about, you know, flying with what do you say, be a jet pilot rather, or a jet rather than a crop duster, right? So he said one of those points was that to get rid of your friends that aren't benefiting you. Okay, so he said he talked to a man that he would jump if there was a jet plane that got shot down and it was over water, that his job was to jump into the water and rescue the man that got shot down. And he said that he was taught that if that man that's in the water is fighting him, you have to shake him. I'm here to help you, right? And if he says if he doesn't come to, right, he says that they're trained to punch him in the face and swim away from him. Because he said today, if that person doesn't want to get the help, we're only going to lose one soldier today. We're not going to lose two soldiers today. So if you're trying to help them and they don't want your help, right? Or if you're trying to help them and they're still panicking, right? You punch them in the face, he said, and you swim away. Because if you don't, he's going to pull you down with, you know, with him. Okay. So, but as far as Muslims go, right, we jump into the water and we try to help the drowning person. We jump in the water and we try to help that person that's maybe on the brink of the fire. Right. We don't just look at him and fly over them, too far down there. That's just going, you know, we don't care about them over there. That's not our deen. Right. Now, if we have attempted to help them and we see, right, that they are obstinate towards this knowledge, right, then at that point in time, you don't just, you know, go away from them per se, but you understand that, okay, maybe my energy is best used somewhere else. You make dua for them and you move on. Abu Sufyan fought the Prophet Muhammad for 23 years before he became Muslim. I'm sorry, for 22 years. He became Muslim at Fath Mecca. For 22 years, he fought. Right, he didn't just talk about. He wasn't one of the Mustaziyun, but he fought the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu Uhud, Badr, Handaq. He fought him, but after 22 years of fighting, he still said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." Right, so we give dawah, and we keep giving dawah, and we don't say, right, when they reject us the first time, oh, those dirty kuffar, we don't want to, you know, they're just going to go to the fire. That's not the way of our prophet, and that is not the way of this religion. Right? We still keep fighting. We still keep teaching. Right? We still keep teaching. And we think about, right, the story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu when the Jewish boy was on his deathbed. Right? And the prophet was kind of urgent. He got the father's permission to urge the boy to take his shahada on his deathbed. The boy took the shahada, and then he passed away. And they said that the smile on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu face afterwards, right? How he was in the streets of Medina, so ecstatic, right? That this boy will be saved from the fire by his hand. Right? We should take those messages and take those stories to heart, right? So the first step that we do to change our conditions, learn, implement, and then teach. Teach with patience. Teach with love, right? There are going to be mustaziyun. There's going to be people that mock this religion. Allah told us that you will hear much abuse from not just anyone. You will hear much abuse from who? those that were given the scripture before you. So when we hear it, we shouldn't be surprised. It should actually increase us in faith, right? But it doesn't stop us. So the second point of a curriculum or the agenda to change our condition is to create a dawah group or a dawah center. I know here in Tampa, they're growing the Jesus Center. It's the, no, what is it? It's the Dawah Center. I'm forgetting exactly the title. The Jesus Center is another masjid, right? But a masjid that is specifically for giving dawah. Okay. So we have to give dawah once we learn, and not be negligent in that. Okay. My wife and I, we did a interviewing African-American pioneers, right? 2 Black History months ago. So not in 2023, but in 2022, we did it. And in that series, one of the points that we learned, and we never thought about it before, was that after 9/11, the Dawah of Islam increasingly became more impotent, you could say. And for those of us that were here in the 90s, right, and in the 80s and before, right, it was a known thing that you're going to get out here in these streets, you're going to tell people about Islam. You're going to get up. My wife tells a story when she first came to Islam, being on the bus, people going on the bus and on the train and teaching people about Islam, giving just a quick lesson about Islam, right? But today we're a little negligent on our dawah, right? We give dawah to each other, right? You know, or we tell, you know, the sisters that, you know, that wear just hijab only, that, oh, you got to wear, you know, face covering, and, you know, but we pass by the sister that's walking down the street with the, you know, the clothes that are insufficient and then completely lost, right? But we're overly harsh on each other, right? That's an issue that we have now. We're overly harsh on each other, but we put everybody else that's lost in the street, and we just categorize them as kuffar, and they're just going to go to the fire. We're not going to give them anything that they need. Okay. And so that's an issue that we have to stay away from. Okay. So a study group, learning the 5 pillars properly, a dawah group, right? Serious dawah group that is set to produce results. To have results in this case, you have to be patient. Okay. You have to be patient. You know,